Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always, told out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to take a look at the very best cards from Pokémon Card 151. But please do remember that Pokémon Card 151 is basically going to be the same list in Japanese and in English. So that means, there's going to be some promos that are different here and there, but they're largely alternate art or taken out of the Japanese set to be put into our products. So the actual set itself is going to basically be the same in terms of cards. So let's go and have a look. And as we start, I do need to warn you, there are lots of very good cards here that aren't on the list, but very, very easily could be. So, for instance, I am a big fan of the Raticate that does 30 damage for each damage counter that's already on the defending Pokemon. That builds up very, very quickly, and 30 damage base on top of that, I should add. Couldn't pop it on the list here. Sorry about that. Kangaskhan EX. I love Kangaskhan EX. I think it's great. I think it's got, single energy, draw 3 cards, free energy, flip 4 coins, 100 for each heads. And I don't think that's going to work all the time. That's not the point, ladies and gentlemen. The point is there are going to be plenty of times where you draw cards in the early game and you flip enough coins to do some big damage in the late game, whatever, and I do think it's going to be a pretty good card to pop into a bunch of decks. There are a lot of very good cards I wanted to put on this list, but I could not find space. I did keep it to a top 10 with a little bit of cheating, so let's start off at number 10 with Cycling Road. I like Cycling Road. It's not the flashiest card on this list, although I love the Kato artwork, but I do think it stands a chance to see a humongous amount of play. Now, what we've got here is a stadium card. Once during each player's turn, they may discard a basic energy from their hand to draw a card. I mean, if nothing else, this is going to be Gardevoir's new best friend, bearing in mind Gardevoir wants energy in the discard pile to use its ability, and wants to draw cards. And any deck that wants energy in the discard, brilliant. Any deck that just wants a bit of extra draw, brilliant. Cycling Road here, absolutely wonderful. I expect to see this popping up in a bunch of different decks. This seems like a very, very, very good card indeed. I got hype for this one, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be good. Now, in at number 10, I'm going to cheat and I'm going to say new tools. We'll talk about leftovers in a minute, but you've got safety goggles, which reduces... well, it doesn't reduce, it removes, there you go, weakness from basic Pokemon, which is clearly great to give an advantage to basic Pokemon, take away their weakness, stop your opponent taking advantage. That sounds pretty gosh darn cool. We've got Big Balloon, which gives free retreat to Stage 2 Pokemon, and okay, fine, it's only Stage 2 Pokemon, but it's still Stage 2 Pokemon, so you're going to be getting free retreat. Free retreat's pretty good. And then probably my favourite of all of them is Extra Tight Belt, which reduces damage done to Stage 1 Pokemon by 30. Which is ridiculous. And is going to fit quite well with Wiggles, for instance, who's coming up on this list in a moment. Or Copperaja is going to work very nicely with as well. Any beefy Stage 1 is going to absolutely love this. I think all of these are good, and I'm bumping them all together at number 9. Now, in at number 8, we do have to do a pair of cards, because I don't really like these cards on their own. It's Jynx, and of course, if you've been following this set at all, you know it's Hypno. Because Jynx has got a very, very, very nice attack indeed. You can, for just free energy, and 2 of them are colourless, if your opponent's active Pokemon is asleep, instant KO. No mucking about, no nothing else. Instant KO on any sleeping Pokemon. That's really good, especially for what is quite a low energy cost. The huge downside, of course, here being that it doesn't actually work unless they're asleep. Well, in comes Hypno. Hypno's got a rather nice ability that when you evolve up into it, your opponent's active Pokemon is now asleep. So this really writes itself. Evolve into Hypno, put them to sleep, and then Jynx gets an automatic one-hit KO on literally anything. I cannot be the only one that thinks this sounds pretty gosh darn good. Now, in at number 7, we've got Zapdos. We like Zapdos, ladies and gentlemen. Also, this is just a really nice excuse to show you the stunning alternate art it's extremely cool. And actually do bear in mind that we are getting, it's a special illustration rare on the screen, but we are getting an actual alternate art Zapdos coming as well. That is coming in one of the boxes. So yeah, if you like Zapdos, this is a good time to be a Zapdos fan. But the card is actually pretty gosh darn good. And since you got the alternate art, you can see the translation on the screen. It doesn't need a translation, it's in English. The ability says if you've got any lightning energy attached, you have no retreat. And the attack for free lightning energy does 120 to the active, plus 90 to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon that already has damage on it. That's clearly good. That's clearly a very nice thing indeed. And a lot of people are saying that this is the kind of thing that could make Miraidon next level. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But are you going to be playing a Miraidon deck without this? Like, you're already going to be playing Electric Generator to accelerate energy, which is a huge advantage. And Miraidon will search this out. And now you can do big bench damage as well. This just seems like a pretty good Pokemon, honestly. Now, in at number 6, we've got Energy Sticker, and this is the kind of card that I might like more than a lot of other people. I'm okay with that, ladies and gentlemen. This is the kind of card I'm going to play around with loads. Because what Energy Sticker does is let you flip a coin, and if heads, you grab a basic energy from your trash and attach it to one of your bench Pokemon. And it is any bench Pokemon, doesn't have to be basic, stage 1, any of that. But it does have to be bench, you cannot attach it to the active. And it can be any basic energy, but it does have to be a basic energy, not a special. I love this. There are so many, I mean, I mentioned Copperaja earlier. I really like Copperaja as a big beefy attacker, but we need a bit of energy acceleration. This could work rather nicely indeed. And that's going to be the case for a lot of decks moving forward. Now, in at number 5, we got another card that I might like more than a lot of people, and that's okay with me. We've got Daisy's Care. I love Daisy's Care. Now, I should mention I do have a daughter called Daisy, so maybe I'm a little bit biased here, but it's a supporter card that lets you draw 2. That's not that good. But then you get to look at all of your face-down prize cards, but crucially, they stay face down. Now, the fact that you get to look at your prize cards is great because it basically means that you can make sure that you're drawing the right prizes at the right time. You can know when you're going to be drawing your prize cards. That is going to be a huge, gigantic advantage, and we love it. And we've seen how good it can be. Knowing when your prizes are coming out, that's a huge advantage. And frankly, this is by far the best option we are going to have for knowing where our prizes are. But I need to mention Chansey here as well, because Chansey's got an ability that says, if you take this Pokemon as a face-down prize card, and your bench isn't full, you can bench it, flip a coin, and if heads, you take an extra prize card. And sure, it's flippy, we'd rather it wasn't flippy, I understand that. But then, by the same token, Daisy's Care will know where the Chansey is. So you can guarantee that if there's a Chansey prize, you're taking it, and then it's flip a coin to take a prize card? Cannot be the only one that thinks that's pretty good. Now, we might as well mention the other supporters while we're here. Erica's Invitation lets you basically put a Pokemon from your opponent's hand onto their bench and then switch it active, so you can attack Pokemon in their hand. Giovanni's Charisma lets you put an energy from your opponent's active Pokemon into their hand, and then lets you attach an energy to one of your Pokemon, although it has to be your active Pokemon. Still pretty gosh darn good. And Bill's Transfer lets you look at the top 8 cards of your deck, find any Pokemon you find there, and put them into your hand. Really, really good for finding those Pokemon and getting them out. I didn't know exactly what to do with these cards, but I do kind of want to put them on the list, but I don't know if they deserve to be anywhere on the list over the others that are already on the list. So I'm putting them on here, although officially Daisy's Care is in at number 5. I really do think a supporter card that lets you know where your prizes are is going to be taken advantage of by a bunch of players. Now, in at number 4, we've got Wiggles, and I adore Wiggles. I think this is a really, really good card. And there are a lot of things I like about it. Firstly, 250 HP on a stage 1 is quite nice. But it's not really 250 HP on a stage 1, because if you've got a special energy attached, you get 100 HP. And I feel extremely confident that you are going to be able to get an extra energy attached here, a special energy attached, because of the wiggles that comes around in Paldea Evolved, that once during your turn allows you to attach a therapeutic energy from your hand to one of your Pokemon. And it's only a stage 1 and you're playing Jiggles anyway, so I really don't think this is going to be a particularly big deal. And don't forget, the therapeutic energy means that you cannot be asleep, confused or paralyzed, which is one thing you might try and do against a Pokemon that's very hard to knock out. Now as for the attack here, the attack is fine. Free energy, 90 damage base, plus 90 more if you played a supporter card from your hand. It's alright. But the thing to remember is, because you've got the non-EX wiggles, getting the free energy on here is going to be very easy. 180 is a decent amount of damage, and you've basically got 350 HP. And remember that extra type belt I mentioned a moment ago? That seems pretty good here as well. So you're doing decent damage, the energy's easy to get on, and you are going to be able to tank a few hits. You know, you should have an effective HP of at least 380 here on a stage 1-2 prize Pokemon. I think this could be a very, very good tanky Pokemon. Now, in at number 3, we've got Blastoise EX, and I'm already seeing Blastoise EX popping up over in Japan and seeing a bit of play and a bit of success, because there is a lot to like about Blastoise EX. Now, it is a stage 2, I've admitted it, we've put it out there. However, it's got 330 HP and an ability that says it takes 30 less from attacks, so an effective HP of 360, which is great. You've then got, for 2 energy, discard up to 2 basic water from your hand and deal 140 for each one you discarded in this way. The thing is, this is a 2 energy attack in a world where we have Palkia V-Star, and I'm not mucking around with any stage 2 energy acceleration here. This is a Palkia deal. Because Palkia's Star Portal lets you attach free water from your discard pile to your water Pokemon in any way you like once in the game. So, if I could use this once, I can put an energy on 3 different Blastoise, and all of a sudden I've got 3 single energy Blastoise EX. And it's very similar to what we saw with Wiggles a minute ago. You're doing a huge amount of damage, 280 is not to be sniffed at. In fact, it one-hit KOs V-Stars and below. And you're very hard to KO. And, okay, the stage 2 is a pain. I know that being a stage 2 is a pain, but the energy isn't a pain. It is just the stage 2 that's a problem here, and I don't think that is going to be a particularly big deal. Even getting the energy here is really not going to be that big a deal, because remember that we're getting a reprint of Superior Energy Retrieval. In fact, it's out now. It's in Paldea Evolved, which puts 4 basic energy from your discard pile into your hand. That is 2 turns worth of using this attack at full power. I mean, honestly here, this is one of the few times where Energy Retrieval actually becomes a really good card, and that got a reprint in Scarlet and Violet. 2 basic energy from your discard pile to your hand, and then you're hitting 280. If you can get this up and rolling, you are going to be very, very hard to KO while doing 280 pretty reliably every turn. I think this one's got huge potential. Now, in at number 2, I'm putting Mew. And it's not just because of the lovely alternate art. By the way, I didn't call out the Blastoise alternate art by Mitsuhiro Rita, but it was up there on the screen. And the Mew's got a great one as well. Poor Wiggles gets left out. But the thing is, I like everything about Mew. No, that's a lie. I don't like the low HP. Outside of the low HP, I like everything about Mew. Mew is awesome. Because what we've got from Mew here is an ability that lets you draw until you've got 3 cards in your hand. That's really good. But it's also worth bearing in mind that that is not limited to once during your turn. I mean, it is once per turn, but it's once per turn per Mew, not once overall like so many similar abilities are. So that means that you've got a really good draw engine, and you've got free retreat, and you've got an attack for free colorless energy, meaning it can be put into any deck whatsoever, which lets you choose one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks and use it. But it doesn't say you need the specific energy, so you don't. So for free colorless energy, you can copy any attack on your opponent's active while having free retreat and a really good draw ability. You see where I'm going with this. This is really, 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 really strong. We are big fans of this. But in at number 1, it's Ditto. And I had a good look, and I had a good think, And a lot of this list, I could see some arguments around it. There are a bunch of cards that made this list that I could argue should be replaced by cards that just missed. But I feel good about Ditto being number one. I adore Ditto. I think it is a phenomenal card that's going to see a phenomenal amount of play. Because what we've got from Ditto here is an ability. Now, it can only be used on your first turn, but honestly, most of the time, that's going to be when you want to use it anyway. And it's got to be active, but you just get to discard this Pokemon, choose a basic Pokemon from your deck and put it here instead. And we've all been in those games where we really wanted a 5th or 6th copy of our basic. This is it. If I'm playing a Gardevoir deck and I really desperately want to start routes, I can now play 4 routes and 4 Ditto. Now, I'm not saying you're going to play 4 routes and 4 Ditto, but I'm saying you can. And now there are 8 cards that will give you a turn 1 routes. And I know it's only during your first turn, but what you can do is have a Ditto in the active, swap it for a routes, switch to the bench for another Ditto to go in the active, and switch it for a routes, and then round and round we go. You could potentially start 4 Ditto and end up with the 4 starters you actually wanted. This is too good. This is absolutely phenomenal. It's a great ability. And any deck where you really desperately want a specific basic Pokemon, this is going to be absolutely phenomenal. And I feel very good putting it at number 1. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That's the best cards from Pokemon 151. And now it's over to you guys. Tell me which are your favourites. Tell me which should be higher. Tell me which should be lower. Give me your own top 10 in the comment section. Go nuts. Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and a bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord, and all kinds of fun things. Oh, and get shoutouts on the channel, like the lovely Landon Dastrup, who's been one of our biggest supporters for a very long time, and I can confirm is most definitely a very lovely person. So shout out for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.